Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
So I'm actually pretty new to the Resident Evil series. First of all, I don't like horror games. You see, I get scared easily, that's why. Yeah, I know, chill. But I've always been curious about Resident Evil. It's one of those series that just feels too iconic to ignore. I just never had the courage to actually sit down and play it. Until
Resident Evil 2.
I did dabble a bit with Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 6 actually, but that was like what, a decade ago, and I barely remember anything. So long story short, after playing Resident Evil 2 Remake about a year ago, I was hooked. I started diving into the story, learning about the characters, watching lore videos on YouTube. Please don't call me a tourist. And now, 1 year later, I finally tried Resident Evil 9. Resident Evil 9 Requiem follows a young FBI agent named Grace Ashcroft, who was actually the daughter of Elisa Ashcroft, the journalist from Resident Evil spin-off game Resident Evil Outbreak. So Grace is assigned by her boss, Nathan, to investigate some kind of mysterious series of murder in an abandoned hotel, which just so happens to be the exact place where her mother was killed 8 years ago. I'm sorry, is he deadass? You're actually sending me alone to the place where my mother literally died in front of my eyes, and telling me just to get over it.
Perhaps it's time for you to face the past.
Sure. Anyway, once inside the hotel, things start getting weird real fast. Grace finds pictures of herself scattered around, but someone's clearly been watching her. And that someone is Dr. Victor Gideon, a steampunk-looking nutjob who somehow taken an interest in Grace. Not long after, Grace gets captured, and then suddenly, the game shifts perspective to none other than Mr. Leon S. Kennedy. So, why is Leon back in Resident Evil 9? Other than being Capcom's golden child, Leon actually has his own reason for being here. He's trying to find a cure for a mysterious illness, something that we can clearly see affecting him, especially around his neck and hand. Whatever it is, it's getting worse, and he's running out of time. His best bet is to find Dr. Gideon. Leon believes Gideon holds crucial information about his condition, so his mission isn't just another biohazard cleanup. It's kinda personal. He needs answers, and Gideon might be the only one who has them. We encountered Gideon carrying Grace and turning the people around him into zombies. And just like that, Grace's story and Leon's story collide. I kinda like how Leon isn't just here for the sake of it. He has a clear, personal reason to be involved in Resident Evil 9. And at the same time, he doesn't overshadow Grace as the main character. The first half of the story still centered around Grace, while Leon supports the narrative instead of taking over it.
It's done with me.
So we have two main characters, Grace and Leon obviously, and their gameplay is totally different from one another. When we play as Grace, it honestly feels like we're back into Resident Evil 7, except now we can switch to third-person perspective, which I immediately did because, you know, I'm very brave when it comes to horror games. But jokes aside, playing in third person doesn't make it any less scary. With Grace, resources are actually limited, so every encounter feels tense, and being chased by a 10 feet tall fucked up looking lady in a dark hallway, yeah, that doesn't get less terrifying. So with Grace, you're basically roaming around the area trying to find clues on how to get out of that place while being chased by a bunch of zombies and sometimes shits like this. I think the horror element that they got on this game is spot on. When we switch over to Leon, everything changes. The gameplay, the atmosphere, it feels completely different compared to when we're playing as Grace. With Leon, the game leans much more into action. Suddenly, I'm not struggling to survive anymore. I am actually that guy. Like seriously, that guy. I mean, he is a veteran. To him, this is just another Tuesday. And honestly, it fits perfectly. The balance between Leon's and Grace's gameplay is, for me, a chef kiss. If you want an immersive horror gameplay with an intense atmosphere, you've got to play as Grace. But if you're someone who's into action more, there's Leon. It honestly feels like Capcom finally found the middle ground. Some of the fans have been saying for years that Resident Evil 6 leaned too much into action with barely any horror in it, which I agree to some extent, while Resident Evil 7 went all in on horror with very little action. I mean, we know that Resident Evil games is balanced between horror and action. This feels like the perfect balance between the two.
Looks like someone else was here first, and they were planning on busting their way in.
Resident Evil 9 Requiem being the most successful game in early 2026 is a proof that single-player games are still going hard. So screw those people and companies who keep saying that single-player games are dead and kept making those awful live service slop. For me, I'm really happy with what Capcom did with Resident Evil 9. The way they balanced the two completely different gameplay styles, one leaning into pure horror, the other into action, makes the game feel like it truly satisfies both sides of the players. And with some engaging plot, they've kept me interested throughout the whole game. I also heard some information that Capcom is going to remake the classic Resident Evil 1 and also Code Veronica. What can I say? I'm really glad that I got out of my comfort zone and jumped into this series. So for those of you who aren't really into horror games but have been curious to try, I genuinely recommend giving Resident Evil series a shot. Especially Resident Evil 9 Requiem. Trust me, you might be surprised and you definitely won't be disappointed. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Peace!